It's the Anfield wrap after a Liverpool 1-0 victory against Crystal Palace. We haven't seen many of them at home. Paul Johnson, Rob Gutmann and Dan Morgan. And I'll start with you, Dan, on that. I thought everyone was struggling to sort of get into the idea that this was going to be a game Liverpool were always going to be the better side and win 1-0. We've forgotten how to be used to that sort of thing.
We have, yeah. Probably going back to Rafa days, to be honest. But I think everyone, bar the players, were kind of wondering what we were going to see and what we were seeing. But the players looked like they remained calm throughout the 90, to be honest. And for me, there was never one point where I thought we wouldn't score. And probably the bench buys into that a little bit and the whole setup. But I think there's quite clearly a shift in notion in this game that, you know, if we look back to just last season, we have this thing where if we've not blown a team away in half an hour, then, you know, we all feel an inevitable doom that it might not happen. But in this game, you know, I think it was quite different, that everyone had just set out for at least the first 60 to see how it played, and then Liverpool would eventually go on and win the game. And it was really nice, really refreshing to see, I thought.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a product of knowing that we had a bench. You know, because we had Salah and Chan on the bench, and Solanke, there's a bit of faith in him at the moment. I think that helps calm you down a bit. I wasn't quite as relaxed as you were, Dan. I have to say, I was getting fatalistic about it. I'd felt coming into the game. I think I previewed it on a couple of different shows in a way, and there was a bit of confidence that Palace were in a terrible way and that we should be able to blow them away. I just felt that we've looked leggy in both our games. The rotation options are not massive, and that this would be a grinder. And I think Klopp probably pointed that out to them, just said, be patient, stay in the game. And you have to say the plan worked. And we did build a head of steam, didn't we, there? The first half was frustrating. You kind of were waiting for this. I wanted the first half out of the way. Once you saw the pattern of it, this is just nonsense now. We may get a goal, but we probably won't. Let's just say so. Let's not go in behind, and let's get the second half underway. Let's see their legs go a little bit. Let's siege them a bit more. And eventually get that moment, because it was definitely scripted that Salah would come on. I definitely think he had a plan that Salah was part of how you win this football match, not just save it, but actively win it.
I think the other thing is, again, I think the crowd almost feels that they see Palace getting beat by Huddersfield at home last week 3-0. You know, and they think that it's going to be another Watford of last season, or Hull, and we're going to beat them 6-7-0, which, you know, we'd all love that to happen, but I think Palace away, like any away side, are going to be a lot different than they are at home. You know what I mean? You're asking, you know, Palace at home to Huddersfield to probably try and come out, and they struggled and they got beat. Probably Huddersfield did exactly what Palace did to us yesterday. So the game was always, if you didn't score early, you were always going to have to try and grind one out. And I think
the speed they went to a back five.
Yeah.
I thought as soon as they lost the ball, it wasn't like Hoffenheim where there was lads just hanging on right up the pitch and waiting to win it back and go.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how quickly they were like, we're a 5 now, boys.
Yeah, totally. And he basically, because he thought, if we don't concede, we walk out of here with at least a point, and then we might nick one on a break, which he could have. Benteke, you know, could have scored with the chance he had. But I think I was just what you were saying. I was confident that we'd score, but it was getting to the point where it was just becoming a little bit, you know, the crowd were getting a little bit anxious, and I think there was a couple of times we were forcing it a little bit, a few passes that, you know, were potentially we didn't need to keep it a little bit longer. So where you were saying about you were starting to get worried, Rob, I think it was coming in, but, you know, hopefully we scored at a good point really, with 72 on the clock. It kind of, everyone's, you know, nerves were sort of put to bed a little bit.
What made me think it was coming just before it came, and I think in general there's a conversation to be had about, and we'll come on to it this side, and I think there's 3 or 4 times first half where, Paul, they're bang on top and they just don't grind that last little bit out. They don't quite just keep dominating in the way in which they dominate for 4 minutes, when if they dominated for 9 they probably get a goal.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that first half, and we'll have a chat about that, because there's a couple of players I think who let the side down a little bit in that. But what made me think just before it was going to come, was that we just created a goalmouth scramble on 70. And that was where I was thinking, these now look mentally tired as much as physically tired. These now look like this has got dead hard all of a sudden. And for a few minutes before that, they were just beginning to wonder. But for instance, Van Arnold gets booked for time wasting about 60, and that he thinks he's being helpful there, but that made me think, no, he knows his teammates have gone a bit. And then there was that scramble on 70, and then we score from the next scramble on 73. And that, it's not taking sides apart, but when you're creating those situations, you are thinking to yourself, there's 4 or 5 more of these by 90, and surely it goes in once.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, once it went in on 72, there was a number of chances after that where it could have walked, we could have walked away with a 3-0 victory easy, and that wouldn't have flattered us. I didn't read the forwards, but the headline, Letizia said we deserved the points on Sky. We did. You can't walk away. I think the ball turned around and said that,
They should have got something from the game.
Well, do you know what? You had 2 real shots on. Well, obviously Benteke didn't hit the target, and in the first half, punching out the one after Firmino with it at the shot for us.
Yeah.
So apart from that, they didn't really do anything to stand out. And as you say there, once we got the goal and that pressure was building, you could only see us going on and scored another one. And again, but for a couple of good saves from the keeper, we a little bit lucky. And Robertson was unlucky with one to get tipped over the bar, didn't he? Yeah. We could have easily won that game 2 or 3-0. So yeah, that pressure was good to build on.
I thought it was interesting the shift in them once Salah come on, because I thought they were quite interesting up until he did come on. I thought they were. I didn't think they were quintessential Crystal Palace, sitting in, playing for set pieces and just trying to get one on us when they could and lump bodies in the box. But once Salah came on, they very much just went, right, we're all going back now. We're all dropping 5 yards and we'll do that. We'll basically suck the life out the game a little bit and try and get this point. So that probably bought into the inevitability that if anything was going to come, it was going to come down our end and there was going to be this siege at their goal, which I thought was I just thought that they become a little bit more cautious once he came on and thought, right, well, we've actively looked to break, we've actively looked to not sit in too deep, but now he's on, we can't let this lad get in behind us, because you've still got Mane on the pitch, you've still got Robertson going forward making these runs inside. So I think that kind of I think it's a really good sub in that if it's 0-0, it's not a Ben Woodburn, no disrespect to the kid, or it's not an Origi to some extent coming on the pitch. It's Mo Salah can open up another avenue for us, and you've still got other players there on the bench who can likewise do similar. Yeah,
I thought his direct running made a difference. He turned the game, or was it coming without him? I don't know. I said at the beginning of this, I think that's part of Klopp's plan, that Salah could give us that extra impetus. We start with it on paper a strong front three. It was perfectly reasonable to give him the rest, but we looked to have so many attacking options when he was on the pitch. It was interesting, Klopp's after-match comments. He talks about an opportunity, I think a moment in the first half, he said, where Robertson gets a great cross in, but Firmino and Sturridge have been part of the process of getting him into position to make the cross, and therefore Klopp was lamenting the lack of bodies in the box. With Salah, he did it. He got the ball up the pitch himself. There's one long run where he's strong. He looks stronger in this game. Maybe it's because he's against tiring legs. I thought this was his best 30 of the 3 matches he's played here. He looked stronger, more direct, and his touch looked better. His eye looked in when he took his shot. He was a bit unlucky with the curler. Yeah, he made a difference. He made a big difference. I think I liked how bold we were in going to that effectively. Let's call it what it was, a 4-2-4 with two men in the middle, 2 very fast lads out wide, and 2 centre mids who had control of the pitch, and they weren't coming out. It was, I think they knew their goose was cooked when that happened.
I thought, there's about 2-3 minutes, and then that's the goal. Rob.
Yeah,
and I actually thought both, and it's hard to tell because there's the goal. But I thought it helped everybody on the pitch when Solanke came on. I thought everyone, they were rotating. It wasn't like they had set positions. The 4 of them, they were taking turns to come and be the one who was a bit deeper. It was Mane for 5 minutes, but then Solanke started there, and then they were. It wasn't quite as clear cut as someone's now gone and done a little bit of that, and so they were just a flowing 4. But I thought Milner has his best 20 minutes of the game after Solanke comes on. Yep. I thought Henderson had his best period of the game after Solanke comes on, where suddenly it looked to me like those lads, Milner and Henderson especially, they suddenly had another body in front of them to pass to. Mm-hmm. They had another option. They had another lane. Rather than it be, you're just sort of trying to stop these 3, there was suddenly just someone else there. Whereas when it was Milner and Wijnaldum, with Henderson sort of a bit deeper, Milner's looking up and there's meant to be 3 of them, and there might be Robertson on the overlap, but it's still not. It's not a 4th attacker. And I just thought from that point onwards, so to actually Paul, I thought everyone on the pitch looked better at that point.
Yeah. I mean, what was nice about it was that, as you say, that when they all dropped back into that position, it looked very comfortable. They all looked quite fluid doing it. There wasn't anyone who didn't sort of suit that position. And as you say, from that point on, once we scored the goal, it was easy that we could have have easily scored another couple. And I think Solanke, for me, I mean, he's impressed in pre-season. He looks like he's going to be a real player for us, and to have him on the bench again, like you were saying about Salah. But again, you were also looking at the bench thinking the world of changes that, if it would have got to 75 without a goal, then you felt that there was changes on the bench, like Solanke, who could come on and finish, and get one. He was unlucky with his, hit the target, I suppose, was his main money when he had a chance. But I like that fluidity that they all dropped into that. And it would be interesting to see in other games like that, even where we didn't quite get the goal, whether that's employed at home, to have that sort of 4 going forward, because I think if you need the goal, that's the best way to go.
You wonder what they're seeing from Solanke in training as well, because he's edged. He's gone from being, will he augment the under-23s and sort of come into the first team squad, to having pushed Origi definitively down that pecking order now. It's quite clear he's ahead of him. How long that lasts, we don't know, and that's as much to do with Origi's drop off. But still. And after yesterday's evidence, you'd have to say that at least temporarily, Daniel Sturridge will probably drop below Solanke. I think he wants to start a forward against Hoffenheim, an orthodox forward. It isn't going to be Daniel Sturridge, not on that showing, because Daniel wasn't. I think he did okay. Yeah. He did bits all over the pitch. He had some nice
touches,
didn't he? Yeah, there's no terrible mistakes or lack of interest from him, but he did look like he was wading through porridge at times. And I'm not putting that down to the fact that he's finished, because I know people around love to say he's finished. He's been out for a month, hasn't he? Yeah. Quietly again. And he has got fragile muscle structure. So he wasn't. I think you might get an amazing 10 minutes like we saw in the derby out of Daniel Sturridge at the moment. It's hard to see him starting and having impact. I don't know. Maybe he needs a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I said before the game on the WhatsApp group that I'd have been really up for Solanke starting and maybe giving Sturridge that 30 if it wasn't going that way. But the thing with Solanke is, I mean, you can see that he can really drop into that front three and not look out of place. And he's not your target man. He's not your mark man who's going to play on the last defender. He drops in, he can interact. And at times last season, when we dropped Origi in there, I just thought you could see Coutinho, Firmino, the Reds were burnt out with him.
On that, just to use the Origi comparison, I think Sturridge is a bit different, but I was talking to Liverpool echoes, Christian Walsh in the boozer last night briefly, and we had a little chat, and one of the things Christian said, and I think he's right, is Origi looks tailor-made to be the striker in a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like. He just looks like he's the striker in a 4-2-3-1. Might want to work in a 2 with someone like Sturridge with a really good player, but looks tailor-made to me to be in a striker in a 4-2-3-1 where he's gonna have all that responsibility on the one hand, but the expectation that he mostly only does the one thing. Whereas
like Lukaku.
Whereas in the you look at our sort of the 4-3-3 and the fluidness, and when it goes to 4-2-4, that's where he struggled, I think. Even when he was scoring goals last season, the 4-3-3, Dan, he wasn't suited to the fluid sort of movement of you're going to spend a bit of time here, you're going to spend a bit of time there, and that's got even greater, I think, this season. And so you do see why Solanke will be ahead of him in the pecking order quite quickly.
Exactly, and that's what I think. If you look at yesterday, we quite clearly have 2 triangles on each side of the fullback, a centre midfielder, and a winged attacker, and they try and open up these spaces and work one of those 3 into a position where you can get it into the box or pull back for someone or float one over. The thing with it is, quite often, it's the central striker who has to start that, because he'll come deep, pick it up, pop it off, and then get in. And with Origi, he never quite knew where to be for me. And there was the thing of, he was never quite on the level of your Brazilians who could get their head up and it'd be one touch, whereas Solanke, I don't know. I mean, we have to take it in the context of the situation he comes on in the game, and everyone's a little bit more tired, and I get that. But he just looks like he can interact a little bit more and know how to position himself and know where to be. But I thought, particularly first half, you see him with Sturridge, that he wanted to come and get involved, but at times his legs couldn't carry him to where he needed to be, or he just looked that little bit more leggy when we got in positions where we could open teams up. And I thought that, it was maybe a case for Solanke to start and then Sturridge to do the last 30, but all's well that ends well, I suppose.
Just to sort of develop this sort of thing, Paul, one of the things that strikes me, and I mentioned it on last night's post-match show, so whilst I was talking, it's sort of occurred to me that it's been a long time. I mean, a really long time since I can think of a Liverpool centre-forward who runs the game. And I think in all of our 3 games so far, our best sort of 20-25 minutes have been when Firmino's running it. genuinely running the game in the way in which a centre mid, when he's flying, runs the game, or a more orthodox sort of footballer runs the game. So, for all the strengths of, say, Lukaku, and he's got genuine strengths, and we're seeing them at the minute, but he doesn't run football matches for you. He gets on the end of things and puts it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Whereas Firmino was for a period of time there, and as in all 3 games, he was running that match. The match revolves around what he does.
Yeah. I think, as you say as well, it's all about the front 3. When he's in the middle, Firmino, he looks such a better player, doesn't he? And that's what he can do, is bits. And we were noticed at the game yesterday about, when he swapped with Sturridge, and Sturridge ended up being the front 3, middle one of the front 3. It doesn't look as fluid. Now, whether that's because, like you said, Rob, he's just come back from injury. He seemed to be. There was one down the left first half where the ball went down to him, and he just had to run and get his body in. And even if he thought, I'll just get my body in, and he just seemed to just literally stop. And again, it was when he was on the left, Sturridge, and I just think sometimes by obviously rotating them, I understand why you do it, but you lose Firmino. And as you just said, then when he runs the game, you do look a better outfit, don't you? You look like you're going to open them up more than when he's out, either on one of the side positions of the 3.
I think I know what you mean about Firmino running the game, and he hasn't had a great 3 games, but he's had a great, as you said, 15 or 20 in each game. I think Mane's been running these games more than him.
Don't, but I'm going to talk to you about that now. That's why I was literally setting this up.
Okay. Well, I think the reason, I think he's very quiet first half, Mane, and that's one of the reasons we don't seem to get on top of it. I think by the second half, him and Robertson have something going on, and we build from, it's not particularly effective, we build from it. Against Hoffenheim, I think in the second half, our control of that football match comes from him. I think we get back into the game against Watford because of him.
All the way round. So I think what happens is when Firmino grows into the game, he's bringing Mane with him. Loads. And what I mean about that is Mane's our outball and he's our most important player. So this isn't a conversation over who's the most important player. Sure. My point is more, I think that suddenly when Firmino is spinning and running and just dropping little areas and picking the ball up and pulling men all over the space, all of a sudden it's easier for Liverpool to get Mane on the ball. Yeah. So that's the thing I'm saying. I think that as soon as they look up and they're getting closer and closer to it, the first thing they're looking for is where's Mane.
This is the Barnes-Beardsley argument was had in the day.
I thought it might be that basically that there's the difference between someone who becomes the outball and someone who's facilitating all of this.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of thing you don't get to see in attack. So often you'll argue around centre midfielders and say, is Mascherano more important than Alonso? Is Alonso more important than Mascherano? But these two footballers are so strange, and I think they are both strange footballers. Neither of them are conventional, that they're having this same sort of issue stroke. I can't even think of the word, back and forth in a positive sense. Where, as fans, we might have it in a, well, I think he was better. Well, I think he was better.
Yeah.
But they're having this same sort of back and forth in attack, which makes them so difficult to deal with. Yeah. Because you don't know if you're the defender, if you don't want to let Firmino get it into feet. But if that means you've got to create space for someone else, and then Mane drops deep do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think we're seeing when we've been on it in these 3 games. That's what we've been seeing. We just haven't probably seen it for long enough.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, it is noticeable how Firmino sees himself. I think they both do, actually. They're both quite quietly, quite assertive footballers who take responsibility. I think we've seen that come on with Mane this season, but Firmino was growing very fast last season. I think that side of him. I mean, I know you don't particularly like to see the shot for its own sake, but I thought the 2 shots that Firmino had were very important in the context of the game. The one in the first half, I think, was probably our first shot on target, is it? In the entire... Does it come before Mane's chance? I can't remember. Either way, I don't know. It felt like it was... Don't underestimate us, Palace. We've got that kind of threat in our locker. A bit like when maybe taking the mantle on from Coutinho, maybe now allowing Firmino to take that sort of slightly more senior role. And I felt in the second half, Firmino gets another one away, doesn't he? Before we score, is it the one that just whistles over? Or,
past the post.
Yeah,
looked in all the way. I couldn't believe it wasn't in. It was a real. Because I was right behind it.
Where were you? Were you in the
lower centenary?
Oh, okay.
I was just above you. I was right.
So you're in the main stand. You don't get to see how close you're up because you're thinking, and the keeper's diving. diving. That's always a sign, isn't it? If you keep his diving, you're thinking, well, he's a bit worried. But I didn't know how close it was. And
I thought it was in right up to the point at which it went past.
Really?
The only point I thought this isn't in was when it wasn't in. If you know what I mean.
I thought I was just probably a few meters above you in the opposite, and I felt behind both the first half and the second half, and in both cases I thought these are going. It would be. I mean, Firmino's he only scored really one long distance sighter for us, I think, against Arsenal in his first season. I'd like to see him.
He got that one against Stoke when he came on.
Oh, of course,
the absolute bad. But I'd like to see. I don't like the shot. But I don't know if how Firmino strikes it when he decides he's going to strike it.
He gets behind that first one, doesn't he? And it's a real palm stinger.
I think if he gets one or two close together and his eyes in, it's like Coutinho didn't score those goals he scored in his first 3 years for us, and then he bends one in, and then the next week he bends another one, and he went aye. I just think a light switch goes on, and I think this could happen for Firmino. It'd be very nice to see one of them go in.
The thing with Firmino though is that he will. Somehow you somehow trust him to know that if he takes a shot on, he will have done it with the absolute assurance that there's nothing else on or nothing better on. That's how it's that game intelligence that you don't have that snapshot where he's just got his head down and he's not looked up and there's a player suddenly with his arms out saying, "Oh, I only need to slip in." So it's that notion that he knows he's got that ability to weigh everything up around him and know that that's his best option and back his own ability as well. But it's the way in which he plays and the conversation around him running games is really interesting because he can do it a lot of the time without touching the ball. It's that ability to create space for someone else just by dropping in a space where someone doesn't know how to pick him up, i.e. they have to cheat and let him go or go with him, or they have to pass someone on to him, and suddenly there's a gap there for a player such as Mane to exploit it. I think you're right, Rob. I agree with what you're saying. I think those two at the moment are really taking responsibility for Liverpool's results and getting Liverpool's results and getting Liverpool ahead in a game or basically dictating as to Liverpool winning a game. So I think it's encouraging, but his overall game intelligence is phenomenal, I think, for me. I think he's probably, at the moment, I think he's the most underrated player in the league for me.
That's a good shout. Did anyone read the Dominic King interview with Sadio Mane, talking about them taking responsibility? I thought it was really, really interesting that. He talked about Mane being away for the AFCON in January, and about he came back and he'd watched all our games, really studiously watched them. And he came back and apparently took it upon himself to take Jordan Henderson to one side at the end when he comes backwards. And I don't know, I'm paraphrasing Dominic King and Sadio Mane. He said to Jordan, "This wasn't us. We weren't playing." I know he gave him a technical appraisal of it, and it led to Jordan calling a team meeting and thrashing it out between them. Now, okay, there's not a lot of detail in that anecdote, but you just get the impression that he's only been at the club 4 months. We'd like to. Again, it's all kind of cliches. He's a wide man. You don't expect that kind of. You expect the bulldog midfielder to come and have those kind of opinions. I like the fact that he's got that kind of quiet presence of personality about him.
If you remember as well, though, when we signed him, Rob, there was all these things from Southampton fans that his concentration was awful, that he knocked off in games, or he weren't too bothered.
He's a bit of a narc.
It's quite converse.
Playing for himself. Yeah,
that's completely converse.
I think the other thing what I love about him, and I've gone on about this for a while, Neil, haven't I? But he's one, if you got into a bar brawl, you'd have him on your side because he'd kick and he'd bite and he'd stamp. And I think we miss it. I still, to this day, think we miss an element of that. He's come back, and you say that, I didn't read the interview, Rob, but he's obviously come back and he's seen something and he's had that word. But I also think that, there's a couple of times, if someone goes through him, he'll think, I'll go through you again. I'm going to go. And I go, do you know what? Sometimes you're living on the edge a little bit, but didn't you live on the edge with Suarez? Didn't you live on the edge with Mascherano? And that's
he has that. Yeah,
exactly. And you know what? I love that, Rob, and I don't think we've got enough of it. I was screaming at the telly on Wednesday when the lad takes Mane out when he was going through, and you know what? It was only a yellow, but we didn't have anyone in the referee's ear again going, "Hang on, ref, that's a red." No, the referee would not have given a red, but you get in his ear and you say it. And again, yesterday, sorry to go off on one of you, Neil, but yesterday, Benteke leaves one on Klavan first half and the referee gives it. So if the referee's given a foul there, he's seen some kind of contact. There was not one person going over saying, hang on a minute, where's his card? If you're telling me you've pulled up a foul for him, leaving one on him, I don't know whether it was an elbow or it was an arm, where was our players around saying to get him that yellow card? And do you know what? I'm not saying that we need to be getting people booked in that, but you know what? Other people do it, and I think if we're horrible, because I think we need to be more horrible, I think you need that, Rob. Do you know what I mean?
That's an interesting point. I felt this already this season. Was against Hoffenheim. They were a bit ready to surround the referee, and I was just thinking, we're not surrounding the referee. There are times I've ended up turning to people I've been next to and going, "Was that ours? Did you see our players protest?" As if, because normally you go, what was the vehemence of protest? You go, with ours, you can't tell. It could have been a Stonewall penalty.
We've been having this conversation though about surrounding the referee since 2006.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like bar the brief cameo of Javier Mascherano, who's a one-man surround the referee machine.
Who got sent at Old Trafford, remember?
Well, got sent off at Old Trafford for surrounding the referee when no one else bothered to surround
But
him.
that was all because of the Ashley Cole thing.
Yeah,
with
the context.
We had this conversation.
Yeah, we did. We've had
this conversation led to Paul Ince being signed so much. This goes back to the mid-90s. People watching Jamie Redknapp and John Barnes.
Under Benitez, one of the things that was said was that Benitez didn't encourage it because he thought it broke the concentration. So you get yourself embroiled in the emotion of the argument, and then you've got to defend the set piece or play for the next point. You've got yourself, and so that Benitez was sort of discouraged it. But we've literally had this conversation. You know, for instance, when Steve Gerrard was captain in about 2007, there was loads of people I know who was saying Steve Gerrard shouldn't be captain because he's not in the referee's ear enough. He's not over the referee enough. You know what I mean?
We're
Give
always
it to Carragher rather than Gerrard, because Carragher will do that sort of stuff for you. But then Carragher's got to run from centre half if it's gone up front. You know what I mean? All of that sort of stuff. But
it's not going to change under Klopp, I don't think, because Klopp's players are in the mould of the manager. I think in this kind of thing, aren't they? To an extent. You see a Mourinho side would get in the referee series, a Ferguson would. Rafa's got his reasons. And Klopp, without trying to bestow sainthood on him, I'm not saying he wants to play fair all the time. I think he's... I just think he'd think it's a waste of energy. It's disingenuous. It's not who he is.
But what I did think we saw yesterday, I'll go to Dan first on this before Paul, was I actually thought you saw 3 or 4 very good tactical fouls from Liverpool. I think Milner does someone when he's pushed up quite high in the sort of their right back position when that could be a break, but instead it's 35 yards from goal and he just does them. Henderson gets his yellow for Loftus-Cheek, and it was very much one where if the lad gets away from Henderson there, suddenly they're running at Liverpool 3-4. I think that Robertson throws one in, if I remember rightly. I think he lashes one in. There was a couple of tackles from Gomez where he actually comes out with the ball, but if he doesn't, the tactical fouls, if you know what I mean, he decides he's just taking everything. And I think that's an improvement, and I don't think that's an accident yesterday. I did actually think that looked a little bit better.
I was made up with Henderson's yellow. I was absolutely buzzing with it because they were away and they were quick away, and I thought, just take him, and he does. And the whole conversation around this for me buys into 2 things. So you can either be the team that gets in the ref's ear, surrounds the ref and tries to influence him that way, or you just look after yourself and you box yourself off, and you be a bit snide. So for me, if we're going to play it the latter, then we have to do it a bit better. I mean, yesterday I see more snide out of Christian Benteke in 90 minutes than I did in a whole year at Liverpool, and I thought Matip played very, very well, but the only frustration I had with him was that sometimes he was more bothered about making sure Benteke was all right 2 minutes after he'd had an elbow in the face from him, if he's given him a bit back. And it's a case of, well, no, just fuck him off, leave him be, and then you know, just let the instead of going over to him and going, sorry about that, you're all right, say to the ref, hey, he's going to elbow me in the next one, you know, the next one in the air, he's going to do me here. Just be snide that way. And take more of those fouls.
Yeah, Henderson was in a running conversation with the ref for about 5 minutes over something like that, and that was the one before. I think when Benteke does land one on Klavan, Henderson had been in a running conversation with the ref about a couple of things, and I thought it was quite strange. And then suddenly that happens, and I do wonder whether or not related to the wrong way to phrase it, but if there was something there. But then I was a bit like, well, then Jordan, go and scream in his face now, because you've just been talking to him and talking to him and talking to him and pointing at things and pointing at your elbow and talking to him and talking to him.
Yeah,
now's the time where you get to go, hey, our ref.
Because he's give the foul, so there was something, and I haven't seen it back here, so I don't know what it is, but he gave the foul. So what Benteke's caught him with something, and I had noticed what Henderson have having that conversation, if I'm honest, Neil. But if he had been, you say that's the perfect time, and I don't mean 6 or 7 players run over. I don't mean, and I wouldn't say it's got to be your captain and that. I'm not into that whole Gerrard didn't do enough. Not my argument, but I just think, as you say there, even a lad over around Klavan, a couple of lads, you all right there? Hey ref, blah. What was that then? Just to put it in his head. Well, hang on, I've given the foul because of course it is probably a yellow.
Did you think we were doing more tactical fouling? I thought we did.
The Henderson one was I was made up with, because they say he's at the back 4 if he doesn't do it. Although Robertson goes to ground on that before. Tell you what though, just on that, Loftus-Cheek, he's a bit of a beast, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very well. Yeah,
he's a good footballer.
I thought he played well. Yeah.
I think on the fouling thing, well,
they're just quick. They're two lads on loan, Fosu Mensah and Loftus-Cheek. I thought were their best two players.
Yeah,
I thought they were both really, really good. Both of them. I mean, if I'm Man United, United look good at the minute. But if I'm Man United or Chelsea supporters watching that, and especially Chelsea supporters, I'm thinking to myself, can they just play for us?
Yeah, why?
Dominic Solanke. But it's noticeable that we've picked up quite a lot of yellow cards in all these 3 games so far, and I think possibly I noticed a lot more of our fouls were taking place in our own. In their half, yeah. I noticed that as we all have observed, and I wonder because against Hoffenheim, we were fouling, but a bit too deep, and that was giving them to those set pieces. And I wonder if Klopp had gone, look, Christ's sake, if we're going to be taking them, take them 20 yards earlier than that. There's no reason not to, because otherwise it's a goal scoring chance. And actually, his comments again were interesting about the defending. He's very pleased with yesterday's display. But you could see against Hoffenheim the development of the defending that's going on. He talked about us being too deep against Watford. We were a lot higher against Hoffenheim. We were high again today. There's defending the high line on set pieces particularly.
I did, do you know what I said to cope with the match yesterday? And Pardo went with it. I was like, when I used to play, obviously I know, but there was a couple where I'd have had them on the 18, but it was really noticeable, Rob, that we were 4 or 5 yards out further than that, and it was almost like, right, so you've got that big gap in between you, but the ball's got to be perfect because we're going to drop, and if it's too deep, Simon, you come and deal with it. And it was very noticeable.
He mentioned the keeper, didn't he?
Yeah.
He just said, we give our keeper a chance here this way. I mean, Hoffenheim, I was behind the goal and you could see the depth of it. It was the highest I've ever seen. It was really quite frightening. You go, seriously? They could just dink this in and you could have a one-on-one with the keeper. But they concentrated, and Hoffenheim never really... They had one half, I think they had about 4 or 5 in the entire game. We're going back a game here, but generally it seemed to work.
Well, just before obviously you come in there, Dan, Palace, again, when you play Palace, you expect that there's going to be an aerial threat, and they didn't. For all the set pieces they had, we looked comfortable. There was one where Gray came through a crowd of players, bump, and collected it, and it just eases. And that's what, if he does that consistently, it's going to build confidence in him, and then your back 4 are going to be more confident because they're going to say, you know what, this goes in here, and he's going to deal with it.
I thought that was a key moment when he came, that comfortable catch he made. Yeah. As it started to hang in the air, I thought, oh fuck, I thought he's not going to come. This is going to be a situation. And suddenly he just comes and he collects. Yeah. And I see other keepers doing that. That's almost the first clean, one of probably only 3 clean catches I've seen him be able to or try to take, maybe in the last 2 years. I'm sure I'm wrong. It's just, but I felt like this. A lot of these are quite easy to take. You're the tallest presence in that box. It's not always a scrap where you have to fly over the top of them. You're the biggest. You can see it, time it, catch it. I just hope that encouraged him to do more of that.
And you see the crowd take a collective breath.
That was the next thing, Dan, wasn't it? Literally, because I think it was when they were having a little bit of pressure trying to get the equaliser, and it just makes everyone
it's dispiriting for the opposition when that happens,
because
hate it when it happens to us.
Yeah, and he just gets it, goes on the floor, takes his time, rolls it out. It was great. Yeah.
Other thing worth pointing out is and it's strange really, Liverpool not as good first half. The manager says at half time, it's a lovely little quote, we showed the players at half time where the spaces are, one pass and then the world is much nicer, which is a nice way to phrase it. The world is much nicer. But all the chances first half, Dan, came from Robertson's delivery. Certainly the best ones. Both Matip and Mane probably should score. It's easy to say that sort of thing. Certainly when the ball's in the air, headers aren't as easy as we all act like they are a lot of the time. But both should find a way to get a proper connection on the ball, and it should either need a great save or a great block.
Yeah, they both should be goals. Matip, there's an argument that Matip should score a lot more, and I do buy into that. I think that's right.
He's now had 2 really good chances. Yeah. He's hit the bar with 1, but he's had 2 really good chances in 2 league games.
And there's a lot last season as well, where you go and lad, just score. And and you can, he's kicking himself. Yeah. It's becoming a familiar face where he's just running back from a corner.
I wondered if he got like 2 in 5.
That's what I'm thinking.
He got one of Palace away, didn't he?
Yeah,
a really good header. Yeah. And then you think, but then as you say, then he gets in that position and he's getting free headers and he's not doing enough. He
has a few glances where he's getting front post and he's flicking a few on, and there's a couple that I can remember last season as well coming off the bar, very similar to Watford. But just in terms of Robinson, I I was right behind his crosses first half, and it's quite it's the old cliched left foot thing, but he basically takes aim at the keeper. So he sights the keeper with the notion that the cross is going to go away from him all the time. And Baines was very good at it a few years ago. That cross.
Baines, who reminds me of.
Yeah,
made up you said that.
Yeah, it was very, very, very Baines-esque in terms of his crossing ability, where he basically uses the keeper as a sighter.
Trent's got the same ball on him.
Yeah,
from the other side.
Yeah,
That's interesting. We got like two of them possibly in combination.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's going to be interesting to see how we play when we've either Trent or Robertson in the side. In terms of, we could probably do with flooding the box a bit more. Those two chances for Matip and Mane, there doesn't seem to be anyone else in and around or following up in and around, and whether we can just get another late runner in there, and maybe, you know, if Chan's on the pitch, another big lad like that to come in and get one back post might be something that we look to in the future. But I thought as well it was encouraging to see how we opened up those spaces for him to get those crosses in those areas. I think I was encouraging both him and Milner in the first half to carry the ball a little bit more. I thought from the halfway line he could have carried it a further 10 or 15 that he had to run into, and then work those bits of space where he could get the ball in. But I think Firmino helped out a lot, and then Mane helped out a lot when he come over and played on Ward. Ward's awful. Ward's a terrible footballer, by the way, just as a side note. He's awful, mate, honestly. Honestly, he was like a case study for me for the first half. It was brilliant.
You looked into the middle distance when you said that.
Honestly.
He was on his own there, listeners.
It was a painful football performance that you perversely enjoy.
We said it in the pub last night, Neil. I think the great thing about Robertson, and this might sound mad, he looked like a fullback. He looked like a fullback, and that's taking nothing away from Milner, who did obviously a really good job there, but he just looked comfortable. He knew what he was doing. He knew where he should be, and I think that's what it's with a bit of a mad compliment. He looks like a fullback, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. But where I was most pleased with him, I think we've seen the delivery. We even saw it in pre-season. But where I was most pleased with him was, I think he does his best football when he's putting the delivery in. But I liked how eager he was to go inside and to join, which is where he looked like Milner. And that, you know, if I'm Robertson, I'm probably actually watching I'm actually asking to watch tapes of Milner last season. I'm genuinely probably thinking, well, the gaffer was happy with something here last season. Yeah. What was it that he was doing that they were happy with? Can I do that? Can I offer my other stuff? And I think if he managed, I mean, we didn't see him tested, and that's going to be a thing. But if he manages to withstand those sort of tests, what I'd be most excited about is he's another player who looks like we've got Rob, who looks like he's quite happy to go outside or inside. Yeah. And I think that, you know, when you're looking at Mane, Coutinho, as and when he returns to the fold, you know, Salah is similar. I'm hopeful that Alexander-Arnold can move in that direction. Milner, broadly, although we all go, oh, he doesn't like going outside. He does actually go onto his left foot a lot, Milner, I think. You know, I think he really does just sort of think, I'll just go this side, because he's constantly being practical whether or not he can do it. But all these footballers, I think, they all look like lads who can go one way or the other. And that's so much harder to defend against, rather than just think, I'll just keep it off his left or I'll just keep it off his right.
Yeah, their bad foot's not just for standing, is it? There's a good balance to these lads. I think it's a good. Although we need the signing still, the squad feels a bit better balanced after a win as well. It's nice to see that what is he, our third choice left back comes in and immediately makes the claim for being the first choice left back. We get our third choice striker Solanke come on the pitch, and he kind of looks, yeah, he could be the first choice striker now. You know, well, out of the pecking order of him, Sturridge and Origi. And
Gomez on the other side.
Exactly. Gomez. You haven't spoken about Gomez, and he doesn't have the spectacular end product going forward that Trent does, but he looks a safer bet. He's got a muscularity to him where you feel really quite assured with him on the pitch. I know he made some errors. He
came on here to often give the free kick away.
He gave a few. He's still raw. I mean, he's only just 20, Joe Gomez, in a tough position on the pitch. But considering, you know, how Jamie Carragher was as a 20-year-old left-back, I think Joe Gomez is in a very good place. We could easly forget how good he is. But you're right, so we got Trent and Joe Gomez and Klein, who's still technically in ownership of the shirt. Suddenly the fullback positions are madly overstocked. We're going to have to...
No, just on this, I want to sort of put this to you, really. I think this is the first time we've actually seen the manager rotate in earnest. I think the first time, because I think Phil Bunner said it to me yesterday, I was being a bit of a smart ass, and I was going, well, what about the end of the Europa League run? But Phil was right to sort of correct me and say, well, the thing about that was when we go to Swansea and we play Chiravella, I'm not saying that Liverpool don't want to win the game, but they're not treating the game like if Hoffenheim's 9 out of 10 important, then Palace is 8 out of 10 important. If you know what I mean. For this Liverpool side at the minute, it's 8 out of 10 important, and Hoffenheim's 9. Whereas at that point, whatever the Europa League game was midweek was 10, and the league game was 3.
These were 10 changes he was making for some of those games.
So, but this is actually, Rob, it's a proper piece of rotation. This, in that it's a rotated side with a bench, with a view to this is how you win the game, and that is probably the first time we've seen him address that challenge. And I just sort of wonder when that team was written down, because it wouldn't surprise me if that team was written down 10 days ago. Between Klopp and his backroom staff, that 10 days ago they've gone, right, all things being equal, if everyone's fit, this is how we're lining up for this one against Crystal Palace, and they've pretty much just actioned that and gone, right, there you are. There might be maybe Milner's impressed and jumped ahead somewhere, but that's what I think's happened here.
I think so.
It's proper to me. It looks like proper plan rotation.
Yeah, I think. I mean, people like to think sometimes managers just like to put the blinkers on and go with the best team, but it's irresponsible if he didn't sit down pre-season and go, there's 5 games in 15 days or whatever it is, or it's 20 days, and write down a team for each one. Of course, circumstances changed it. What was interesting in his post-match press conference, Neil, which I think shows an insight into the psyche you're talking about, is one early question was, you changed both fullbacks, Jurgen. He went, and a centre-half. And what that showed to me was, I was making changes there, and it worked, didn't it? That's what he was saying. Because obviously he would have been, I don't think he's not a rotator. I just think the circumstance hasn't been there. He's had a whole of last season where there's no call for it because we're only in one big competition. And the season before it became binary, didn't it? Where with Europa, fuck the Premier League at that stage, we were making 10 changes. Now we're into this proper as Neil says, 8, 9 out of 10 game. Worth games a week. He's got another test. I mean, you can still see we don't have quite enough bodies here. It's the fact that Mane, who was a doubt all week, and he's now had to have another 90. Do you have the full 90 there? I think he had nearly the full 90 in his legs. Yeah. So you kind of go, does Mane start against Hoffenheim? It's going to be difficult to ask him to go again there. But still, these things are encouraging. And there's a boldness in that rotating. There's no doubt about it.
Look, I think that you have to look at whether he will do it again to such a degree, because he probably knows that he's got to go Wednesday and then Sunday with the same team now, and near enough full strength as he can be with Hoffenheim and then Arsenal. But I mean, I was encouraged by it. I think what I mentioned to Rob before outside is that I thought it was interesting that maybe the circumstances of the whole game and the setup of the game and the fact that we rotate allows everyone to, in some perverse way, just relax a bit more. So it's basically
lowers the expectation a touch. You think?
Kind of sets the script a little bit of what we're going out to do. So it's not this notion that we're playing our 11 best players, and we've got two of our best subs on the bench who can come on. And if it's not been done, like I referenced earlier, in the first half an hour, or it's not looking like it's going our way in the first half an hour, everyone's then panicking, and it's panic stations. It kind of allows into the fact that, okay, well, we've got lads here who are coming into the side and they haven't been in it for 3-4 weeks, or it's the first start of the season in some cases. So we need, as a crowd, to let them obviously patiently build into it a bit more. And I thought we seen that. Okay, it was a bit quiet in there, but I thought maybe there wasn't that anxiety whereby if something doesn't come off, or if it's not really happening, then everyone's saying, well, that's it. Then obviously it's done, and we've seen that a lot last season, especially in the first half in games, and as games grew on more. So I think it's interesting that it kind of, and it's very Benitez-esque.
You're talking about pragmatism, aren't you? You're going into football matches wanting to be pragmatic rather than be the best team in the world.
Exactly, yeah.
There's that, Dan, but the other thing I think as well, and all those lads, Joe Gomez last season gets a couple of cup games, and I put in my piece. Joe Gomez goes to bed tonight feeling like he's part of the first team squad. Yeah. Whereas last season, he knows he's just been dropped in for 2 cup games, if you know what I mean, and there's no intention to have him properly involved. Whereas now he goes into training on Monday, and he's not thinking, I can defo get me start for Hoffenheim, or defo get me start for Arsenal. But he is thinking, I've got 10 league appearances in my ear between now and Christmas. All it needs is a bit of luck with an injury, and then you never know from there. And that's quite different, isn't it? He now feels part of this thing that's going on, massively part of it, and it's not just him. There's others on the pitch, like Daniel Sturridge, for instance, who feel massively part of it, rather than just like, oh, well, we'll see what happens.
There's suddenly 18 to 20 players who know they'll get a game once every 3 to 4 weeks. And that's
as a minimum.
As a minimum, yeah. And that's massive. That's massive probably around the place as well, because it's just a lot more involved, and a lot more involvement for those players. And I think last season we kind of shoehorned ourselves a little bit into this magnificent blowing away, free flowing football that basically only centred around 12 tops 13 players, and to break that, we didn't really know how else to play. So when players were coming in, it was kind of unfair on them to expect them to be in that mould or in that same vein as that other 11. So I think that I think maybe it just, like Rob says, I think it maybe adds a little bit more pragmatism to everyone that, okay, we know what we need to get out of this. We need to win the game 1 or 2-0. And the thing with this as well is that I always said last season, there's possibly 13 teams in this league who will happily come away from Anfield with a 2-0 defeat. And we forget that because they don't have to answer to anyone. There's not going to be any kind of crowd revolt. There's not going to be a manager who's bollocking them. There's not going to be a chairman having them in saying, what was that, lads? They've kind of half written the game off already going into it.
Do you know what, Dan? On that point, I think it's a really good point. But I think Palace yesterday kind of can set that. At the moment with United are steamrolling teams. And I think there are teams now who, because of what they're doing to other teams, will do exactly that. They'll turn up at United and they won't even have a go. But if Palace would have just got a point there yesterday, your likes of your Hulls and all those teams that you've just mentioned potentially then go to Anfield and go, oh no, Palace do this. You're sitting deep. They can't get frustrated. Liverpool don't be patient, and you come away with something. Now, even though we've done it 1-0, I think it now leads to think, well, you can come and do that, but we'll break you down somehow, and we might win 1-0, we might win 6-0, but we're going to win, and that's where the mentality of those teams then go, all right, well, it's Anfield, so we'll take that, and that's good. I'm pleased that there's some teams.
I think they took that. You're right. I think they took the defeat. The game doesn't change at 1-0. You'd half think they're coming out. They're going to
go on. Yeah, I was going to say.
I think they get their past Palace muscle memory and go, if we come at Liverpool, you never know what happens with Liverpool. They don't. They're scared that we're going to score again, and we look like we're going to score again and again and again. That was interesting. So I thought that you're right. They did. You said that to me. It's like you said, Dan. It's as if Palace had bought into the script as much as us and our crowd.
Yeah, but I think there's something on that though, Rob, which is, for De Boer and for these players, he's set up with his 3 at the back. He's set up with his shape. Yes, it's been more defensive. But if he comes to Anfield and they get battered 3-0, 4-0, then all of a sudden they're being battered 3-0, 4-0. I just thought it was a classic example of everyone almost just going, you know what, this is sound, because if you're the ball, you get to have your post-match thing where you say, well, Benteke had a couple of chances and we did all right, and there's nothing to worry about here. We've just gone to Anfield and got beat 1-0 and we've got to be a bit more clinical.
A moralish victory.
Yeah, whereas if you get done 4-0 and it goes 1-0 and suddenly before you know where you're at, Liverpool keep turning you around and they score 3 goals in the last 10 minutes, then everyone's saying Crystal Palace collapsed. And then you're the manager having to talk about a collapse rather than, getting beat 1-0. And it's a lot easier for the whole football club.
Yeah, because you're right, because they go to Anfield, they're demoralised after 3-0. They don't know where they're going because they've got a new manager, and even the players at the back of their minds are thinking, this guy could be totally shit for this league. And they can see a 4-0 win, a defeat. They know that could happen to them, and then their seasons, and then they've got a relegation thing. So they get to 76, 77 minutes. They've already had a good day out. They've already had a good day out, and they're not going to let the goal spoil it. Do you know what I mean? They're going to go out, and they still stayed stoic and resistant, and they've only got beaten 1-0. And De Boer, as you said, De Boer can come out with that crap afterwards. All right, they should have got something.
And it's sound. Everyone gets to go with sound. He doesn't sound ridiculous.
It's a platform
if you get beat 4-0 because they concede 3 in the last 10 minutes, he comes out afterwards and says, yeah, we could have got something from that. Everyone just laughs at him. Whereas that, I think everyone sort of falls in with that. Listen, we very rarely, because there's so much to talk about, we very rarely get to shift along. But the other thing I took from the game yesterday, Rob, and I'll go to you first on this because it's your area of expertise, is Liverpool couldn't have to do with an attacking midfielder. That, as much as I thought that the shift to 4-2-4 worked, I think no matter what he does I think if Henderson's fit, he's going to put Henderson on the pitch unless something drastic happens. So I think whatever he does with Chan, Milner and Wijnaldum at the minute, and even allowing for Coutinho to stay and be reintegrated back into the fold. If Lallana's out till December, Coutinho can't play every game. And I'm looking at that thinking Liverpool just could do with one more quality attacking midfielder now, because I understand with Woodburn and you don't want to block Woodburn's progress, but he's not in the 18 yesterday. These games are coming thick and fast. And, we're talking now about this run of games where it's been 5 and 14 days. Well, the next one's 7 and 21. And I'm just thinking no matter what happens here, getting someone else in who can play midfield in an attacking way. It doesn't have to be a pure attacking midfielder. It doesn't have to be a number 10, but someone who can attack from midfield. Because Wijnaldum is the biggest concern for me. I don't think Henderson was great yesterday, but he didn't just go missing. Wijnaldum barely was involved in the match. He must have got on the ball less than 30 times, and he didn't tackle anyone. He didn't go past anyone. He didn't intercept.
No, I mean, in a way, yes. I thought he had his one contribution that anyone can remember was, I thought, quite an interesting one. Just to quickly divert onto him, he gets a good shot away, which forces the keeper to a save, and then there's a follow-up and a bit of a scramble in the second half. And in a way, it helped our momentum. But that's not giving Wijnaldum particular credit for that. I think he had a poor game. I agree.
I think my point is, sorry, I'm not.
No, I agree with your
my
point.
My point is Milner, Can, and Wijnaldum will all make more sense playing for Liverpool in centre midfield if there's an attacking midfielder playing. That's my point.
And Jordan Henderson. I think, look, to be very, without over-analysing football, to me, you watch players in midfield, and there are two types. There is the midfielder, and then there's the attacking guy. And Wijnaldum, Can, Henderson, and Milner are blunt instrument midfielders who do all kinds of interesting, sophisticated jobs, but they will not create an enormous amount of chances or score you goals. Then there are the little jinkers like Coutinho and Lallana, and occasionally a big jinker. They're the guys. Basically, what happens, if you've got one of those in your three, you've actually got 4 attacking players on the pitch. 4 players who want to take shots at the goal and make goals. If you don't, you have 3. You have a 3 and a 3 rather than a 2 and a 4. We saw it under Rodgers. I remember it was so binary sometimes in the 13-14 season. When he dropped Coutinho into the midfield behind Sterling, Suarez and Sturridge, we'd be so much more potent. But he sometimes wouldn't have that, would he? And we'd dog out like that game in the run-in at West Ham. But you knew you were blunter. You knew you weren't the real Liverpool. But games like that at home, I just think he simply didn't have the personnel there yesterday, and that's your point. Woodburn, he looks like he could have that number 8-ness in him, but it's very 17. Jesus Christ, you'd have to drop him in and hope he had a couple of blinders to convince yourself. But yeah, we need that player. I mean, hopefully we've got him. He's called Coutinho.
No, I'll say hopefully Coutinho, but even allow him for Coutinho.
You want one more?
I think you need one more.
Like you say, Neil, if that's it's your Hoffenheim home and Arsenal, one won't come in knackered. So you need that other players.
And I'd go from I'd love to stick by someone like Draxler and drop him into the mix. I'd take Mahrez now. There's a number of players out there. Keita's an interesting one. From what I can see of him and understand about him, if we could still get him, is Keita seems to fall between the two, not fall between them, but be able to fulfill both roles. Be incredible, almost Gerrard-like, without putting any pressure on that lad if he ever comes to us. But that's Gerrard could do both those things. He could be whoever you wanted.
Whereas Xabi Alonso was just a just is the wrong word, but was just a midfielder.
Yes, Sissoko, Alonso, Mascherano. They are midfield players in the mould that Wijnaldum, Henderson, Can are. Yeah.
I watched Naby Keita last night for 45 minutes.
He got booked, didn't he, yesterday?
He got booked, but he very much plays in that space between our 2-3s, if you like.
Does he?
Yeah, very much. He was very number 10 in terms of his positional play and where he plays and what he tries to link up. And it feels like you need that, because at the moment, I think we've started the season, even into pre-season, as a 3, we look very flat at times. And it's sometimes a case of, even if Coutinho's on the pitch and he's in that 3, okay, you get the ball up early, but it's a case of go on then. And there's not really that link that drops in between the two of those lines, and I think Lallana's very good at that. I think he's excellent at that, at just filling in that space.
I actually thought we missed Lallana more yesterday than Coutinho.
I think we missed him all season massively. I think we really have.
Klopp made the point about Hoffenheim in particular. He said this game was made for him. Did you see that in his post-match? But, I mean, Lallana's a really good player, but you need at least one of those lads. Yeah. And we've got 2 who are not available to us at the moment, which is a kick in the teeth. I think if we'd had one of those 2, we might have been beating teams 4-0. We might have beaten Watford 5-2 and Palace 4-0. So fuck off United. But seriously, they haven't got anybody out. It's doing my head in, by the way. Can I just say that out here? None of them are listening. Yeah. It's doing my head in.
They're very good, Rob.
I've watched them.
I've been telling you for a while they're very good.
They're all right. They were lucky to go in 1-0 at half-time against Swansea.
Yeah, but
let's not talk about
but the point is, Paul, it is what looks like it's missing, and as I say, it helps everybody else. It means that if you wanted to rest Henderson, you could play Can and Wijnaldum in a flat 2 and put the other player in front. If you want to have the staggered 3, you can go Henderson, and if he is going to play Milner in centre mid, and I think Milner, as I say, ended the game really strongly, but you get to go Henderson, Milner plus 1 more, Henderson, Wijnaldum plus 1 more, Henderson, Can plus 1 more.
Yeah,
I just think you we could quite quickly get into a situation, as I say, this isn't about, I think Coutinho will stay, I think he'll be a Liverpool player, and I think he'll reintegrate himself and everything will be lovely until the end of the season, and then it'll all get looked at again. But it looks to me like, where's this one more? Because if there is no Lallana till December, then in real terms, there's no Lallana till January.
Do you think the Oxalade could be that player?
Possibly. It's not clear yet whether or not which of your two types of midfielders, and I like that you've reduced it to just two. It helps the conversation.
You know, I like to make things simple.
Yes.
Like my two football formations.
Yes. I don't know which of those two midfielders he is, to be honest. But with his pace, you'd like to think he can do some of the other bits. But
yeah, I think I'd say, Neil, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and hopefully you mentioned Draxler, who apparently at PSG he's surplus to requirements there, and we were linked with him. So I know he's maybe more of your wing type play, but then
I think he's more of an orthodox attacking player. But you see, here's an idea which I don't know. I'm increasingly banging a drum for, and I think if we get a couple more bodies in, there'll be a case for it. I think Roberto Firmino. I mean, of course, we need him up front, but I think he could play that role we've now earmarked for Coutinho. Should he come back in, I think he can play number 8 all day long. I think the extra bit of space he'd get there, he'd really enjoy it. He's got a lovely weight of pass on him, shifts feet quickly, sees things. I mean, I don't see what he hasn't got to play that role.
The only issue with that I have is that you'd kind of want another Firmino in front of him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I know that's the argument.
The left field one I'd go for after watching him yesterday would be Mahrez. I think Mahrez could do a job for us in there. I think maybe if even coming off from wide, I think his game intelligence is really good, and I think maybe someone that can link for us. I'm not too sure, but I think we definitely need to look at someone.
The Mahrez to me is really strange. Player of the year 2 years ago, and that Roma appeared to be the only side,
the only club,
putting proper money on the table for him. Is, you know, Steve Graves has this with me, and he says there's some footballers where you wonder whether or not something's gone round football that we don't know. That you know what I mean. Someone said, "Oh, I'm not sure about his he's like in training or blah blah blah." Yeah, I think it might be that he's mercurial, and at the minute there's a lot of there's managers. There's 6 managers in the top 6 who are all looking for someone who's not mercurial because they haven't got the luxury of that because of how tight it's going to be. But, you know, for instance, even Everton don't appear to have had a proper sniff. And but maybe they've had the nod. He wouldn't even think about going to use lads. Don't go there. I don't know. I just think it's strange with Mahrez. I'd like to know what the gossip is.
He always looks a yard off for me. And whether it's a be arsed thing about him, whether he just can't be arsed to get that yard, because he quite clearly could do. But he just always looks a yard off in terms of being up with the game. But when he's on the ball, he's clearly got really good ability.
That's absolutely right for me. I've watched him closely. I think you can. If you watch him closely enough, you can see what the reticence is. I would have him. He's got a bit of the touch of the Ozils about him. On his day, on the front foot, in attack, he could run a game. But there are days where he switches off and he's not asked. And he
was in a bit of a dog battle. Like, you don't want him on the pitch for you're one of them. Yeah,
it's a cliche. It's a cliche of that type of player as well. But it does seem true of him. Having said that, I think we can accommodate that.
And also, he was in a lot of dog battles for Leicester.
It's a great show.
They played hard. You know, a lot of their football wasn't a battle of laughs when they were winning. Every week, and
getting back in shape and then hitting them on the break, wasn't it? When they were,
I don't know.
He looks to me like he likes it when he finds the ball at his feet in the middle of the pitch. He doesn't like it when he's too far wide. When he's caught, when he's told to hold his position. He's you're defending first. I remember watching him very close in that game where they turned us over last season, and he was out wide a lot of the time. And obviously been told keep your shape, and he really wasn't enjoying it or doing it very well.
But we do look like we need someone. All right, one more thing then before we all disappear off is the Hoffenheim game. Are we expecting no surprises then in terms of the team selection, Paul? Do you think he reverts back to the front three that we expect? That he goes Henderson, Chan, one other, which I think is the interesting conversation point at the minute. He goes Alexander-Arnold right. Yeah. He goes Lovren and Matip, goalkeeper, obviously. And maybe left back might be a bit up in the air as well. That's fair.
Yeah, 100%. If you asked us to write our teams down, I think it'd be that, Neil. And those question marks that you put would be the ones I had. I think obviously Trent comes back in at right back, and I think the front three will be the front three that we all expect.
I'm going to violently disagree with everyone here, and I'll either look very stupid or a visionary. but I think he's going to play a horse for the course team. I don't think he's going to take the approach. I put up my bet. It is a massive game for Liverpool Football Club, but I don't think his view will be I'll put out my most talented 11 and blow them away as the best form of defence here. because I think in this sort of game you can throw yourself at them, score an early goal, and it doesn't make much difference really to their game plan at all because of the nature of Europe and away goals. I think he might look to overload the midfield with the Blunt type. And I just have this mad feeling that he could play with a front two, something like a diamond. I think he could do. I wouldn't have advocated against Palace, but in this kind of game where have a lot of the ball, keep the game very static in midfield. Who would the front two? Do you know my front two would be? Solanke and Salah. Salah brought much because I think we'll have a load of space in behind them. Salah can play as a number 10, almost actually also as a lone forward. I could see him tucking him in behind and playing a diamond, which would have combinations. I don't know where: Henderson, Wijnaldum, Chan, and Milner. And
you think he'd rest Firmino and Mane?
I think he'd put Firmino and Mane on the bench as the break glass option. Yeah. Because I do think he can. Our first half score is good enough that he can also have just half of one eye on Arsenal. He's allowed to do that in this case. I know it would. I don't think he's taking a risk in doing this. Because
I think he might do this if we'd have gone 3-0 against Hoffenheim. I think he might be right. If we'd have got to 3-0, I think he might have done this. As it is, when it's a 2-0, it goes to 1-2. And I just think,
as I said, I can be slapped down on this one because this is a bit wild, right? And I also don't think it's a shoe-in that Trent comes back in. I think Trent could come back in for Arsenal. I think he will have been encouraged by Joe Gomez there, and he might think Hoffenheim are a decent set-piece team. A bit of height at the far post. Trent, fantastic going forward. This isn't about us needing a shitload of goals here. Trent's got a rick in him. We can see that. I think Robertson might have done enough to keep his place. In fact, I would think he would, because I think he'd say I'd rather that lad over Moreno, just given the balance of his talents. Yes, Matip and Lovren. I think he'll go with Gomez. I think he could go with that Blunt 4 and a mad front 2. And I think Firmino and Mane might be on the bench.
I can see us being unchanged from the first leg, and I think that the reason being is that I don't think under Jurgen Klopp in Europe you're going to see a stereotypical European away side who goes and dogs a 1-0. I think you'll see very much like for like, both home and away, and we'll go with the notion that we go and win a game by hook or by crook, no matter where we're playing. So I think that he'll probably place his faith in the lads that have already played in the first leg and say, listen lads, this won't be too dissimilar to what you faced last week. Bear the fact that we're at home, I don't think it'll be overly different. I don't think there'll be a side who plays particularly in a different way. Hoffenheim might look to dog it a little bit more and try and get one early, or they might come out the traps and fly at us and try and get one early. The only thing I would say is that I'd expect Wijnaldum to drop out the 11, and I don't know whether that'll be Wednesday or it's for Arsenal. But just with how leggy he looks, as we referenced before, I think he might drop out.
But do you think Firmino and Mane, and everyone picking this first choice team or last week's team, that brings them both onto their 4th start in 10 days? That's big at this stage of the season. I wonder whether Salah dropped. I wonder whether he thought Salah for this one, Mane for that one.
I don't think you're doing both though. So
drop them both out.
Yeah, I'm
not saying they would.
I think Firmino,
Salah comes back in.
I think Firmino gets all 5. It wouldn't surprise me if he maybe rests Mane, but
could be Firmino and Salah sort of behind my 4.
I think Firmino gets all. I think Firmino gets all 5 games, and I think he'll have had the attitude of, not least because Firmino doesn't get selected for Brazil a lot of the time.
Yes,
and I think he might have had the attitude of, right, some of you have just got to grin and bear this. In the same way that I think Henderson plays all 5 games, Firmino plays all 5 games, Matip plays all 5 games, and the goalkeeper plays all 5, and everyone else is maybe a little bit more. It might be one eye on it, but I wonder if Mane, with his attitude, his application, the thing that you said earlier on, is
leadership.
Is the idea of, for instance, that if you're saying, if we're beginning to compare Mane to Suarez, the idea that Suarez doesn't play all 5 of these games for Liverpool would just seem absolutely crazy, and we wouldn't tolerate it. And we know that the footballer wouldn't tolerate it. The footballer would be banging on the manager's door going, are you kidding? Are you absolutely kidding?
That's very possible. I can't argue with that.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
We will see. Liverpool face Hoffenheim on Wednesday. Listen, if you're listening to this, we'll be covering the game against Hoffenheim. We've got our new preview show for European games called Under the Lights. That's coming up this week. We've also got our review of Crystal Palace, where we'll go into greater depth, have a longer chat about the rotation question and the manager's mindsets in and around all of these games and how he's approaching that. That's coming up for you as well, and all the other fantastic stuff that's sitting there as well, week in, week out. It's £5 a month to subscribe to. Please consider doing so. Thank you very much to Paul Johnson, to Rob Gutmann, and to Dan Morgan. It's been a terrific Anfield wrap this week because Liverpool won a mundane 1-0. Normally they're hard to talk about, but not for this Liverpool side. See you in a bit.